Eastern Kentucky, where I was raised, where the wildlife and mountains call my name. I was born to hunt, I was born to guide, a camouflage on a rifle by my side. Just good old country boys chasing dreams in the Appalachian Mountains, fields and streams. From those white-tailed bucks strutting toms, the bugling elks that are on the run. Where those dreams are made, the trophies is our game. The TLC Outfitters is our name. The coyotes run all night. It's music to my ears and in my sights. I've got this hunting fever down in my bones. Glad my daddy taught me everything I know. From those white-tailed bucks strutting toms, the bugling elks that are on the run. Where dreams are made, the trophies is our game. The TLC Outfitters is our name. From those white-tailed bucks strutting toms, a bugling elks that are on the run. Where dreams are made, the trophies is our game. The TLC Outfitters is our name. The TLC Outfitter is our name.
Hey folks, happy Tuesday. Welcome to On Air and Outdoors with TLC Outfitters. My name is Trinity Shepherd, and as you can see over here on the other side of me, this is not Matt Woolwine, but this is my good buddy Gary Grant from Grace Elk Outfitters. Man, Gary, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us.
You're more than welcome. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, man, we appreciate you so much. Matt is not able to be with us tonight. He called ahead of time and told me, he's like, man, he said, I'm sorry, I ain't going to be able to make it tonight. One of the probably what I think is one of my favorite subjects. That's all about food, man. I'm pretty excited about tonight.
Me too.
Yep. Nothing better than some elk steak, some elk roast, some elk jerky. About anything elk is pretty good in my book. What about yours?
Absolutely. And we eat deer. We eat venison probably 2 or 3 times a week. That's in my house. And I always tell everybody this little belly I got here, it's not because of a lack of exercise. It's because my wife is a really good cook. And I ain't too bad of a cook either because I like to eat.
Yeah, man. I do too. You know, if you want to know how good a cook somebody is, just look how healthy they are. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness, man. What a big week for us. You know, we're excited here a little bit later tonight. We're going to be bringing on our good friend, Tim Farmer, and his wife, Nicki, are going to join us from Tim Farmer's Country Kitchen. And I tell you what, man, anybody watching tonight, when you mention the name Tim Farmer, they're going to know who it is. I mean, going all the way back to the Kentucky Field days, and now Tim Farmer's Country Kitchen. You know, a lot of people don't know it, but Tim and I, you know, we really jump-started what would lead later to TLC Outfitters way back in 2004, 2005. When we kind of done a show for Kentucky Field on my very first elk hunt with Tony Sparks, and that just kind of put the nail in the coffin for me getting started. So pretty special guy, pretty special deal for me.
Absolutely. I'd like to see the footage of that hunt. I don't know if I ever saw it.
Yeah. We'll have to get it up there. I've been fortunate enough to do a couple of those shows, and it's a lot of fun. But Tim brings, man, a lot of culture, a lot of knowledge of the outdoors, and now he's taken that knowledge and he's put it into the kitchen. And man, some of their stuff that they're putting out is fantastic. I mean, they're syndicated all over the nation, and I mean, it's a real huge honor for us to have him on here tonight. And we'll get to him here in just a few moments. Man, a lot of stuff going on. You know, we're in June. We're in the heart of summer. You know, you and I were talking a little bit about some adventures you've got planned and some things going on. I mean, big fishing time. And, you know, when you think of fishing, a lot of people want to think about tournaments and think about lake fishing or whatever else. But I'm right there with you. I don't think that's the big picture. What do you think?
No, I really enjoy where I live down here in Harlan County. We're very fortunate to have 3 really nice rivers that make up the Cumberland River. And my entire life, I have fished those 3 rivers, and they're just loaded with smallmouth and now great effort restocking walleye from the KDFWR fisheries programs. And I didn't fish for walleye a whole lot this spring. I was busy on other things, but I had a lot of friends that had a lot of success. They have a slot limit down here, so it just makes the fish really grow when you have those slot limits, and you get a lot of trophy fish in just a few years, because a lot of people don't realize how fast fish grow and put on size and weight. They're just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And they have really helped the upper Cumberland, which is where I live. And I know you've got some great river fishing up there where you're at too.
Yeah. We've got some great areas. You know, when you talk about the Big Sandy, you know, we got the Leviza Fork right here. You know, not too far up the road, 45-minute drives where the tug flows into the Leviza, making the Big Sandy River. And we've got the Russell Fork. And then we've got some smaller places. You know, we've got right and left Beaver Creek that offers a lot of good fishing. Troublesome Creek all the way up in Knott County, Perry County. There's a lot of great smallmouth fishing, string fishing, creek fishing. And to me, man, I mean, and like I said, there won't be a lot of people out there to disagree with me, but for me, I would rather, on light tackle, I'd rather fight them creek smallies and all them other fish like that any day is to go sit on the lake and catch a 10-pound largemouth. That's just me.
Well, it's kind of I guess it's no longer a secret since you have all these follows on the show and we're talking about it, but this is a true story. I have pictures to prove it. I had about 90 minutes to hunt one fish one evening last year, and I put in right here in Harlan. I paddled upstream less than a half a mile, and I had 6 keeper smallmouth from 13 to 17 inches, plus 10 or 15 more throwbacks.
Yeah. On
artificial.
Yeah.
And I'm floating and paddling like a single person canoe or a kayak, and it's just it's a huge amount of a lot of fun with little effort. You know, I'm not driving 100 miles to get to a lake. There's not a lot of people, and I just really, really enjoy it. I mean, there's not even a lot of houses in a lot of places on a lot of our rivers, and it makes for a lot of fun.
Yeah, man, it makes it for a lot of fun. And if people haven't tried it, whether it's wade fishing or kayak fishing, you need to really try it. It is a great way to get out and enjoy the summer. Here's my little cousin Dakota says hello. Hi, Dakota, our number 1 fan. My mama says hello. Hello, mama.
Hello, mama.
Yeah, look here, already digging. Justin Tinsley says, can't believe Matt Woolwan is missing a show about food.
Well, I mean, what better replacement for Matt? I know I'm not as good looking as Matt, but what better temporary substitute than me, Justin? I mean, come on, man. You know me.
That's right. He don't need to be discriminating. That's right. Matt says the food ain't on here yet. I'll be around. All the way down in Florida, our good buddy Paul. Paul, man, I cannot wait till October to get down there and gator hunt, man. We're going to gator hunt. We're going to be bow fishing with Captain Justin Diamond on that new brute of a boat he's got. I can't wait to get out in the Gulf on that thing. We're going to be hunting. Iguanas and fishing for peacock bass with our good buddy Scott Sumter. I mean, I'm excited. Daggone it, Scott! I didn't put them. I had all that laid out. I'll get it on next week. Scott's already been down towards the Keys, harvesting some iguana and stuff, and frying them babies up along with some Kentucky venison. Man, have you ever tried iguana?
Absolutely no. It would be a pet if I caught one here in Kentucky.
That's right.
I'm not against trying iguana.
Right. Nathan says my favorite type of fishing is wade fishing for smallmouth. Absolutely, Nathan. And I tell you, man, Eastern Kentucky, when you think about smallmouth fishing, you get some of these central Kentucky streams. I think about the Elkhorn, and I think about some other places that comes to mind. But a lot of good streams, Gary, right here in Eastern Kentucky. People, kind of the best kept secret.
And what people don't realize is because of the lack of population and the lack of agriculture, we have really clean water here in Eastern Kentucky. I know I was an environmental scientist inspector for surface mining for a number of years, and in 10 years, I hardly ever wrote a water quality violation because the companies worked hard at keeping it good, and the state did a really good job at the regulatory service that they were providing. And I remember just a couple of times where something got out of hand and we had a black water release or something like that. It didn't create a fish kill necessarily, but it did look really bad. And it was just siltation, and they amended it really fast and got it stopped. And then the river cleared up, no different than when it rains, it gets muddy. It was just a different color.
Yep.
But I would say in my estimation that our streams here are cleaner than they have ever been in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I'll
second that. Yeah. I'll second that.
I remember we had straight pipes and all this stuff way back in the day, and our county, kudos to them working with the state, the health departments. They got most of that taken care of. And we have a lot of countywide sewer systems now and septic tanks that are enforced, and they do a really good job with, and people are just more aware. And of course we had a population decline too. So all that combination has really cleaned up our waters.
That's right. Ben Moore says big muskie below the dam on Johns Creek. Our good buddy right there, Ben, and we're getting ready to see some pictures and video for him. Ben, landed a huge muskie below, and Johns Creek is the main tributary to Dewey Lake here. Johns Creek is 99 1/4 mile long. It lacks 3/4 of a mile being considered a river. And, they stocked Dewey with a muskie. And I guess some of them muskies come through the spillway, and they are giant muskie in lower Johns Creek. So
didn't know that. That's we don't have muskie in the upper Cumberland, and they're talking about reintroducing them because they are native. So that's way cool. And I've actually driven to Hyden and to Manchester to muskie fish and had an absolute blast.
That is awesome. Man, I cannot wait. Tim and Nicki are with us in the studio. We're going to be getting them on in just a few moments. And then this is for Matt. Miss Sarah, the wife of Paul, says nature can't wait to see you, talking about their pet skunk we talked about last week. Matt fell in love with the thing, and it's just the cutest thing ever, man. And speaking of Ben Moore, man, I love to showcase what's going on in the area. I mean, it's summertime. We talk about hunting. We just finished up a very successful turkey season, whatever, but there's a lot of other things. It's not just about the old line and pole fishing. I want you to take a look at this right here. Our good buddy Nathan Harless, and he says he's going to get me out. Now, I've never done this, and I'm pretty excited. He says he's going to get me out there, and he's going to get me bit, if you would. But it's a grappling noodling season. As you can see here, Nathan's in the shirt up and under a rock here at Dewey Lake, and taking. I think they say that's his cousin for the first time. jerking out a big flathead, man.
That's some good eating right there.
That is some fantastic eating. And you talk about a good day of catfishing right there. Look at that.
Man, that is cool.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't know anyone around here specifically that does that anymore. I remember some guys from the 80s that did that. And I remember a catfish being posted in the local newspaper because it was so big. It was about 60 inches long, and it was a flathead, and it weighed like over 80 pounds, and it came out of the Cumberland River.
That's awesome. And our little buddy right there, Hunter Harless, man, look at that. Let me tell you something. When the Harless boys show up to town, something's going to go to the freezer, or it's going to get on the line, or it's going to get caught. That's just the way that it is. So very good. Way to go, guys. And our good buddy Ben Moore. Ben helped us out on our hunt with Jason Hollis from Hollis Farms, and got his little boy in on some food plots. Let's take a look at this video right here. And then he had to try it solo. Man, I'm gonna tell you something. If that don't warm your heart as an outdoors person, if that don't just absolutely make you smile, see that, see Hunter with those catfish, see Maddox there with on that doing the food plots, man, that's what it's all about. Our youth is where it's at.
That's right.
Yeah, that is fantastic. John Haley says, "Hey, Trendy, can't wait to see this fall, man. We can't wait to go hunting with you, brother. We are excited." Thank you all for joining. Folks, we're about ready to get to our guests. We're very excited. Me and this guy goes back all the way back to 2004, 2005. He really, what I consider, jump-started my elk career with my private business. As a guy named Tony Sparks called me up and said, "Trendy, I got now to get a load of this, Gary. This is how way back when this was. I get a call from this guy, my buddy Tony Sparks from Moorhead, and he says, Trendy, I've got this tag. I think it's called a commissioner's tag. And he said, nobody will talk to me. And he says, you're going to take me hunting. I said, hang on there, Tex. I said, I don't know about this, but I said, you're going to have to let me take a look. And long story short, man, Tim got involved while he had done his career with Kentucky Field. We got to film that hunt. Tony took a great elk. We had a great hunt, man, and very special to my heart. Then we were able to do a pioneer squirrel hunt, and that was really, really neat. So got a lot of good memories with this guy. And we're going to bring him on here. If y'all haven't done so, please like and share this feed. Get the word out about all things on air and outdoors. And tonight, our special guest, Tim and Nicki Farmer from Tim Farmer's Country Kitchen. Hey, guys, how we doing?
Can you hear us?
We can hear you, man.
Woo!
Hello.
I pushed the right button.
You did. Thank you so much, man, for joining us. We appreciate y'all so much.
Yeah, we just got in from Owensboro and visited down there today. Really beautiful part of the country down there. Their Riverwalk area, just the whole thing. They had a big catfish tournament, I think, down there coming up very shortly. So that's where we've been all day.
Sounds like a good day to me, man. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know we have talked a little bit about the schedule you all have got going. I mean, you all are no longer you know, we're thankful that you come from the great Commonwealth and all the great things you've done for the Commonwealth. But now you're able to take your show on the road. Y'all been doing this for quite some time, and this thing is nationwide.
We've been doing television for 70,000 years now.
Wow. That's
And
awesome.
when Trinity did that show with us, the Civil War was just over.
You good for you.
Look at him. Still looking
Hey,
for a
great at losing it, man.
But you know what? I had great fun with Kentucky Field, and I was over there with the department. I started out in fisheries, and I had so much fun. It just didn't even seem real. But you know what? By the time that I turned around, started out in fisheries, and figured out, hey, it's 30 years I've been here at Fish and Wildlife. How can that be, Trey? You ask me when I'm only 39 years old. You say, how could that be? But long story short, there it was. And we had already started the Country Kitchen show in 2012. So I had both shows going on at the same time. And we got to looking on YouTube. We posted on YouTube after we aired the show. We got to looking at some of the things that we've done. Had, viewerships in the millions. And we're like, wow. So we took the show on the road. We got a call from the Food Network. They wanted us to come on and do some stuff with them. But about that time, KET said, you all need to have a nationwide audience with us through NETA. So they syndicated us. And now we're in Miami and LA and New Orleans and Oregon, Washington, Wyoming, Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
How about that? We didn't do a hunting show in Puerto Rico. I wonder what we could hunt down there.
I don't know, man. I'm going to Florida to hunt iguana in October. So, I'm sure maybe they got some of that stuff. It's got to be something good down there, right?
We've been going to the Keys since the 80s. And, we started seeing those things coming around, but probably in the late 90s, early 2000s. And now they're everywhere. People would release them.
Yeah.
Now they're this nuisance species everywhere. And it's just sad that you see these things happening all over the country. So knock them out, man, when you're down there.
That's right. And they're good eating, boy. I've not had them, but I know our buddies that are down there, they love them. And I can't wait to try them. I mean, I'll try it at least, that's how we roll, and we like it. Man, I'll tell you, we like I said, we can't thank you enough for coming on. What a great representation of the Commonwealth that you all are. Representing, our great state, the culture, everything that you all do. I mean, from the time that you were with Kentucky Field and now, I mean, I want to say a big thank you all to everything you do and represent us. But most of all, thank you all for coming on the show. And I know if you take a look at these pictures right here, this is kind of, to me, this kind of verifies you as a wild game expert, if you would,
Uh-oh. Oh, that was just a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Big redfish. And I actually got a snippet of that video if you don't care for me playing that.
Buddy, you can, whatever's out there, you can use it however you want it. Splash it all.
Let's watch. And I love your all show, man. And there's probably not a person watching or that will watch this that doesn't know Tim Farmer, Nicki Farmer, and Tim Farmer's Country Kitchen. But just in case, I want to give a little snippet, or 2 or 3 minutes here of the show, because it is fantastic and a wealth of knowledge. Here we go.
Now, if you know us, you know that hunting and fishing is a big part of our life, and not so much the trophy aspect of it, but when we go hunting or fishing, we want to bring food back to the table.
Mm-hmm.
When we go fishing, I typically fish for species that I can bring home and eat.
Good idea.
Exactly. A lot of people fish for tarpon and bonefish and things like that.
Right.
I go for the species that you can eat.
That's
And
why I love you.
Exactly.
That's right. Phoebe.
See, I keep you well fed.
That's right.
So when we were down fishing for redfish, red drum, technically, these fish right here got a bad rap for a lot of years. And I think it was because of that name, the drum.
Yeah, they look beautiful.
I have melted some butter. So here is the simplicity. It's perfection. If you've never blackened fish, and this is the perfect fish, I think, to blacken. You can do this with striper, you can do this with any firm flesh fish, but I think this is probably the best species to use blackened seasoning. I'm gonna be very liberal with this.
This is easy. No wonder they ate it all.
Oh, but you know, and you want to char that a little bit. Now you notice I'm getting a hot pan over here. And look how much I'm putting on here, because some of this is going to come off in the skillet. I'm going to put a little bit more butter in there just in a minute. We don't want our butter to burn. And you don't have to do this terribly hot. And if you've noticed, I've got a little gas stove out here. A lot of folks said, well, what if I can't build a fire outside? I think this is an excellent, excellent way to cook outside where you don't have to. In almost any situation, you can use this. So the same here, lots of butter.
That's a big piece of fish.
That is a perfect size piece of fish. And lots of blackened seasoning. Now that's about what you want it to look like. We're just gonna pop it in here.
Oh.
Now you can tell that's not super hot, and I don't like to do anything super hot. That's just me, you know me. Cooking outside, there's nothing like it. And the one reason I really like this, oh look at that, just
nice.
look at that. The one reason I really like this fish, because if you notice when I flipped that over, it didn't come apart. It's a firm,
It's firm, yeah.
firm fish.
We got more in the freezer.
Oh, I'm so happy. All right, this is blackened redfish.
Yummy.
To die for.
I can't wait.
Now, something that I like along with a blackened seasoning fish is a corn relish. All right, Mrs. Farmer, dig
That looks so
in.
good. Oh, wow. That's nice and peppery. The fish is amazing.
That fish was made to be
Oh,
blackened.
that's so good.
There's nothing better than blackened fish. Now, you can blacken catfish, you can blacken trout, but my favorite is this and striper. That's delicious.
That's delicious.
Well, we got to eat this and come back with our secondary meal that's very popular there. How's your cake coming along?
It's doing good. It's got a little more time.
Okay, I'm excited about that. All right, let's have another bite.
Yummy.
That kind of makes me hungry.
Need to make that again.
Trinity, I hate to do this. I'm hungry, man. I'm gonna go.
Yeah. I mean, show's over, right?
Yep.
That is awesome. And you know, the variety of cooking that you all do and that you show the people, it's not just a show to, you all actually teach people how to do this stuff and to step outside their comfort zone with their food.
You know, food should be an adventure. You know, I can't imagine. I know people, we know people who eat like 3 things and that's all. And somebody asked us not too long ago, y'all gonna run out of recipes? Well, guys, I could do 2 years worth of cabbage.
He could. He really could.
And she could do 15 years worth of shows on baking.
We
things.
both weighed 900 pounds.
And then I'd wait. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would be.
we were.
I would be on 600 life.
That's right.
Then, you know, talk about your Kentucky field days. I mean, all the stuff that you've done to help. Here's some bear cubs that you was involved with, and all the good things, the conservation things that you've done in Showcase. But the star of the show tonight, taking you back to the day,
Yeah,
elk.
I did a bunch of those. Now, you know, over the years, I did them with folks like you, and then I did a bunch of them myself on youth hunts and guided those trips, and that was just a special time. It's a special thing.
Yeah.
Kentucky. I was very fortunate to be in Kentucky at a time in the department where a lot of things were going on. You think about the fact that we didn't have turkey like we have, didn't have deer, and then in the 2000, we have an elk program. That was blowing my mind. And I know you guys from down there in that part of the region, you had to think, how is this thing going to work? Did you wonder if it was actually going to work?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You know, you wonder sometimes not knowing. I mean, coming from that not knowing, you know, is this going to be a gimmick? Is this going to be where is this going to go? We never dreamt that it would balloon and blossom into what it is today.
Well, we had a forward-thinking bunch of guys in there, and they really got a lot of stuff done. You got to think about it. Some of the commissioners we had, and the things that they got done, and it's just pretty amazing. I remember going down there and taking Nikki down there, and on a couple trips, and calling some elk in and having them come within 10 feet of us.
They are big.
What was your thought?
You told me to freeze, and I was just shaking. But huge. They're my friends.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
And they're in their rightful place. They're supposed to be here, but we, through lack of control, and back in the days, when somebody was in poor times and they saw an 800-pound animal walk across the yard, what are you going to do?
Yep.
But through regulation and through careful, thought processes through the Department of Fish and Wildlife, and so many people working together and so many organizations working together, look where we're at.
Tim, before we get into our elk portion of this, our number one fan, my mama, by far my greatest fan, she's got a question for you. Now, she is a huge preserve maker. She loves the can. If it can be canned, she's probably canned it. It's her hobby. She likes it so much. And she's got a question for you here. She says, have you and Nikki ever canned fish to preserve the fish?
Yes. And here's something that everybody can look up. When you're canning, obviously you have to be very careful. There are different times and different temperatures for each specific thing. Fish takes a little bit longer than it does, say, if you're doing beef or chicken. So what I'd really like you to do, have questions like that, go to timfarmerscountrykitchen.com and look under our recipes and look under canning, and we'll go step by step and show you these things. Some of that Asian carp and other invasive species that are just horrific, they really can well. They have those little hair bones. They don't make a real good, if you took them and filleted them, you really have to kind of carve all those bone configurations. But the meat that is there is delicious. It's white, it's pure, it's clean, it's very good taste, a very mild taste, and it serves itself well to be canning. So when I would go down to a show on Asian carp, we were trying to figure out what to do with the daggone things. And so I would take them and I smoked them and I canned them.
You did.
And a buddy of mine, Jim Doom, down there, he makes kind of he'll can them and make tuna fish. He'll put a little salad dressing in there. And
Brings his crackers on the boat.
A little relish.
Yeah, we have
And it's delicious. I mean, it really is delicious. So yes, you can catch canned fish. You have to be careful, follow the directions, and look at how many minutes, how much pressure. And it's even as definitive as looking up your elevation to know how many pounds of pressure. So it's a very involved process, and you have to make sure to follow many, many steps, because botulism is probably not good.
No.
Now, and the thing is, the old timers, you hardly ever hear about any cases of botulism or anything like that. But just follow the rules. Make sure your jars are clean. Make sure you wipe around the surface of the jar when you're putting the lid on to seal it, and you won't have any trouble like that. And a lot of times, if things do go bad, you get some tomatoes on the occasion, they kind of boil over. Right. There might have been a bad spot on it, or something might be loose. It'll kind of tell on itself. But you have to be careful. But yes, you can fish.
Yeah, she said, thank you so much. She'll check your page out. Very good.
All right.
Now, so we're finishing up. This is our fourth show in a 4-part series. We've kind of gone through the whole thing. So you got drawn for an elk tag this year. Where do you go next with the biologist? We have had on Kentucky Elk Guide Association, talking about, what to do during your hunt, whether to get a guide, do it yourself, all that. We had taxidermists and processing on, and now my favorite part, it's time to feast on the beast, I think, as Gary would say. So what, I guess, kind of take us. So you've harvested this animal, you've processed it, whatever. Let's just kind of go through it. What do you like to do as far as wild game? Talk about venison. There's ways to cook. There's things to stay away from. What would you have to tell folks?
We have done so many things over the years. And the first thing, as you said, is to make sure you process the animal right. stay out of those guts. Just a little bit of that, and I hate to be vulgar, but just a little bit of that gut is so strong that you can ruin a whole section of meat with that. So be very careful to cut around that and make sure you don't get into that. You know what I'm talking about?
I do. Yes, I do.
Nikki gives me a hand sometimes, so we're very careful. Make sure you get that deer. Now, to me, I'm not one to hang it up. I want to get it from the field to the freezer as soon as possible. That's just me. And I have found that over the years that it seems to taste a lot better like that. Once you get it processed, it's limitless, the things that you can do. Her dad, we did a show with him not too long ago. He's not with us anymore, but he was a wonderful hunter and outdoorsman.
Yeah.
He liked to can his venison. What happens when you can your venison? And when I'm talking about canning venison, I'm talking about canning elk as well. So you have a bunch of neck. So you have a bunch of junk cuts.
You use the junk more.
Oh yeah.
Just use
So
it.
say whatever you cut and put off to the side, cut that fat off, and you can take that and you can can that. And number one, there's some of your junk cuts and things that. Well, so what happens when you can venison or you can elk? It's a very interesting thing. You take your little pepper and a little salt and put in there, just a little bit. You put your venison up, you put your elk up, and you can it. And again, I'm not going to try to explain all the details on here, but go to our website for the very intimate details on elevation, temperature, time, so on and so forth. But when you can elk, a little bit of pepper, just a shake of pepper and a shake of salt, that pepper and that salt goes throughout that pressurization process and goes throughout that meat and gets into that meat. And when you open a can of that later to sample it, to use immediately, you know what's the great thing about canning? Is the fact that the meat is already cooked. So what is the real pain and the real problem with, say, I want to cook a soup or I want to cook a stew? You got to cook the meat down, and it takes forever. A lot of times you got to brown it, then you got to cook it. And to really take those pieces that you cut up that aren't canned, I mean, it takes a couple hours to cook that down, and still sometimes tough when you do it like that. That pressurization makes that soft. And what's it taste
good.
like?
Denny Moore stew.
It tastes like Denny Moore beef stew. When you get in there
and
when you get in there into that jar and you sample a piece of it, because you can, it's already cooked.
So good.
It tastes like beef.
Yes.
Don't ask me why.
Delicious beef.
It's just the process of that pressurization and the salt and the pepper. And some people even will put a little beef tallow in there or something like that. I don't think you have to. I like the taste of deer, and I like the taste of elk. Elk is like the supreme wonderful stuff.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have a gamey taste. I don't know what happens. I can't explain the process that happens through canning. But that's the number one thing you can do with your junk pieces, and you have it on the shelf. And when you want to cook somebody a stew or a soup or even a stroganoff, boom. All you got to do is heat it up.
Or just eat it out of the jar.
You can, and you will.
Yeah.
If you try a piece of that out of the jar, you're going to say, wow, I've eaten a whole jar like that.
Yep, absolutely. It's fantastic. And, I love that you start with that because, what we try to do, we can, my mom, she, like I said, canning is a hobby of hers. She loves, if it can be canned, she's canned it. We will take what we harvest, put it in the freezer, and we will eat on that until we get close to the time to season to come back in. And then, we've got just shy of a year in the freezer. Now we pull all that out. We can it. Freezer space is opened up. We've got a wealth of preserves. And man, you come home after a day of work, you can get some other canned vegetables, and you can make a pot roast dish that's like it's been in a crock pot all day.
Yeah, and your cooking time is down to nothing.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. When you have lots of little pieces laying around, you pile them up, cut them into bite-sized pieces. Put them in the daggone pressure cooker, and you're good to go. Second, if you have any kind of a little meat processor, those are becoming cheaper and cheaper. You can make your own brats. There's nothing like elk brats. And we do all this stuff on the show, and it's very visual. It's step by step, and it shows you what. And we do our own seasonings. One thing I don't like to do is to use a lot of pink salt. I don't like to use a lot of nitrates or nitrites in our food.
Mhm.
We just don't. I've done a lot of research on that, and I'm not going to get on my soapbox. But the thing about making brats or making your own summer sausage or things like that, we're not making it to last for 10 years. We're not trying to keep it, have a shelf life forever. You can put that in the freezer and you're good to go. Now, a lot of the things that we do, we cure our own bacon and things like that. And we don't do it to have a shelf life. You go to the store and you find all these products that have sodium nitrate and all these horrible chemicals in them. Well, if we cure a bacon, if we do a 3, 5, 7 day cure, which you can do in your own kitchen, I use kosher salt and I use brown sugar and I use real maple syrup. 7 days, 5 to 7 days. Just turn it over. You might have done that. Smoke it, get up to about 140, put it in the fridge. And it usually doesn't last,
Doesn't last you long
about
at
a
all.
week. So we use it for immediate use. We're not trying to have shelf life of you look at some bologna and things like that. If you buy it at the store and it's full of chemicals and it says, say it's June and you look at it and it says, the due date is like January. And you're like, how in the world is that lasting that long? So we don't make food to try to give it a huge long shelf life. We try to make it as healthy as possible. And we use the spices that we have on hand to make things comparable. You can even make bologna out of elk. And we have a bologna recipe. And again, all these recipes are at timfarmerscountrykitchen.com in great detail.
Yeah. And when you take and I'm not taking away.
Now, when it comes
to, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, sorry. I think we got a little bit of delay. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
So what I was going to say is a lot of times when you go to the processor, if you want summer sausage or you want bologna, you're talking about $4, $5 a pound to have this made. You can actually make this stuff at home, and it's pretty easy and pretty inexpensive.
Yeah. Yes. And you can do it without all the chemicals. And if you put it in the freezer, you don't have to worry about, the long shelf life. You put it in the freezer, you pull it out. Usually that doesn't last long. And sometimes if I'm in a hurry, this past year I killed a deer, and I think it was, and I took it to a processor down there. I took it to Showalter's. Man, they make some good summer sausage, and that it was just really easy for them to do it, and we didn't have much time. Yeah. So I am not against processing it, but if we have the time to do it ourselves, it really does save you a lot of money and I won't say a lot of time, but it's worth the effort that you put in.
Yeah, fantastic. Now let's go to our prime cuts. And I love the way that we're going. We went from canning, we went to processing, because there's a lot of meat. There's a lot of opportunity with an elk, and here's what I want everybody to realize, just from a processing standpoint. If you're a bull hunter and you kill an average bull, average size bull, somewhere around 600 to 800 pounds. A cow is somewhere around, 400 to 600 pounds. But, I tell everybody that a lot of times it's like a big beef. If you're going to have somewhere around 40 to about 50, maybe 60% retention on your meat. So if you kill, it's hanging weight. If you kill a 600-pound animal, by the time you get to the processor and everything, you're going to be somewhere around 150 to 200 pounds of meat that you're going to bring home. And, people don't understand that. These things have got huge bones, a lot of hide, a lot of weight that they're not going to get. But the prime cuts, talking about the prime cuts, I think a lot of times people make a big mistake because they think they have to cook things well done or something like that.
Are you still with me?
I'm still with you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, it's freezing up a little bit on this end. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you. Yeah. Technical difficulties.
When
I think it's back.
I think we're back. When you have the blessing of an elk, Kentucky elk on your table, and we've had it. when you have steaks, you need to think about that like you think about a good cut of beef. You don't want to cook that to death. You cook it and get it up to temperature, 150, 160 degrees. But, there are different people with different thought processes about that sort of thing. But when we cook a beef steak, we get it rare or medium rare. And that's the thing about an elk steak. You don't want to cook it until it is just shoe leather. You're ruining.
They're froze on us, Gary.
They're froze up. Looks like a picture.
Yeah. We'll give them just a minute, see if they can come back. Oh, now they just log back in. But, they'll come back in just a minute. But, Gary, I think a lot of time, and I know you do a lot of cooking as well because you run an elk camp. You do a lot of outdoor cooking and things like that. People a lot of time, and that's one of the big misconstruities, going back to what I was saying, they think they're going to come down here, kill an 800-pound animal, and they're going to get, 600 pounds of meat back, and that's just that's not the way that it is.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Did you make it back? I think we had a little lag there.
We had a glitch.
We can hear you now.
Back?
Yes.
So we were talking about don't overcook your elk. You're not doing yourself a service. If you're really cooking that to shoe leather, then you're not getting the full essence of the flavor of that meat.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So if you're going to take your prime cuts, what's your favorite way to prepare your prime cuts on an elk?
Obviously the steaks are just absolutely fantastic. It's not fatty. There's not a lot of fat in there. So sometimes I'll take a prime cut and put a piece of bacon around it just to kind of give it a little more flavor and a little more moisture if I'm going to put that on the grill. Nikki, she likes a Sunday roast.
I like Swiss steak too.
And she likes Swiss steak. Tell them that recipe.
I like to cut thin pieces. He always gets upset because I'll get in the freezer and take his tenderloin and slice it into nice thin pieces. But I like to salt and pepper that and kind of bang it with a little
tenderize it.
Yes, tenderize it. Salt and pepper, flour, put that in butter, and then throw it in the crock pot with onions and mushroom soup and some wine. I think that's one of the recipes. And let it cook all day.
You can't hardly beat that.
It's delicious.
Her Swiss steak that she does, and you would use that everything that you would use beef for. You can use that elk. And gosh,
that'd be good too.
All these recipes, if you look up our recipes on timfarmerscountrykitchen.com and say you want a her Swiss steak recipe, or you can see where we make our brats. Everything is on there, so you can see that. Look up stuff. Anything that we do for deer, beef, you can do with elk. That's the beauty of an elk.
That'd be good in a glump cake.
Oh,
cabbage roll, like that cabbage roll.
Now she's from Michigan. So when I met her, one day she was making glumpies, and I'll let her tell you what that is.
That's a cabbage roll. And in Michigan, when anybody graduates or gets married, you have a glumpy, and you take cabbage and you boil it. And I used to take deer meat with that, or burger, and put a little rice, salt, and pepper, and you add all kinds of stuff to it. Tomato sauce sometimes, and you just let that cook. I'm a crock pot cooker. Put it all day in a crock pot with tomatoes and maybe some tomato paste.
You take those leaves after they boil, and you just roll up and tuck that meat in it. You put some rice in it.
Fold it up like a little package and cook it.
And then you put that in the tomato sauce, and you can make kind of a marinara. You can put some basil and some oregano and salt and pepper and things like that. A lot of times, now something I learned a long time ago, and remember this, and the word Trinity comes in here, not your name, but a Frenchman that I met who really mentored me in the cooking of wild game. He said, here's the Holy Trinity of cooking deer and wild game and elk. And remember these three things: red wine, good quality bouillon, and currant jelly, red currant jelly. You take yourself, now the best thing that you can do with a prime cut of elk, say you're doing some backstrap, say you've got some perfect medallion size piece. You take this is the number one. This is the French chef that I met years and years ago, and you might have seen that with him. This guy, I met him, gosh, it was probably back in the 80s, and we became friends. And I found out much later in life that he was a famous French chef who had a restaurant in Casablanca, and he had a staff of 60 and a swimming pool. And he was so modest that I never knew until later in life that he had this huge restaurant. He cooked for Frank Sinatra, the King of Morocco, Lauren Bacall, Bogey, all those people. Mm-hmm. He was a famous chef, and we became friends. And one day he said, all right, I'm going to show you something. So, and he did this on the show years and years and years ago. So you think about an elk medallion, that beautiful piece of backstrap that you cut as thick as you want it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe an inch thick. Maybe for the medallions a little bit thinner. You take those and you saute them in butter, all right? Just till you get them nice and brown. Leave a little pink on the inside. You take those pieces, a little salt, a little pepper, saute in butter, just till you get them nice. Set them aside. In that little bit of butter that you have left, you take you some red wine, you take you some currant jelly, and you take you some quality bouillon. A lot of times we'll use the Better Than Bouillon brand because it's already kind of in a liquid-ish form, paste form. You mix those three things up and say a half a cup of wine, probably 2 or 3 tablespoons of red currant jelly, and a half a tablespoon of your bouillon. Then you reduce that down, okay, by half. It'll become a little bit thicker. You pour that over those medallions that you have just put in that, you have just sauteed in that butter.
Yeah.
You're talking in a New York restaurant, it'd cost you $200. And it's beautiful.
The kids do it with a spoon. The kids steal it.
Yeah.
When he's not looking, they get a spoon in the bowl and they start eating it.
But if you've got some backstrap elk or venison, whatever,
that's the best.
You try that, and it's magic. I mean, and that's just. Can you remember that word, the Trinity?
Yes, I think I can remember that.
Can you remember that Trinity?
and I know my taste buds can. And I popped this up there. Our good friend Mark Campbell, who is a fantastic elk guide man and one of the best in Eastern Kentucky, says red. And this is before you start telling red currant jelly in your marinade. Tim Farmer tip. Yeah, very good. That is excellent, man. And we got go ahead. I'm sorry, Tim.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
We got another question here from John Haley. Says he was actually going to ask if you all have recipes for elk summer sausage on your show, on your page.
Yes, it would be the exact same recipe. Have we done summer sausage, or we may?
You did some in frozen. What was the stuff?
I think I did some. I know we did brats, and I know we did. Gosh, we've done so many things, Trini. I'll have to take a look. But have him go to timfarmerscountryKitchen.com and look, and he'll be able to see if that's on it. I've done it here. Some things that we've done, we do everything. We cook everything. Some things that we've done, we thought we did on the show, but we didn't. We just did it here and then ate it all.
Right.
He ate it all.
So it gets much.
Gary, what questions do you have?
Oh, I don't know. I've been enjoying listening. Longtime fan, Tim. We never met. Share a lot of mutual friends, and it's just an honor being on the show with you. So, thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having us. I'm gonna tell you a funny story about Nikki. Years ago,
what?
I started the show and working full time. Started the Country Kitchen Show, and one day she came home. I said, "You know what? I was trying to get her on the show. She wanted no part of it." I said, "Nikki, you need to come on the show." She said, "No, I don't want to do it." Then I acted all pitiful. I said, "Well, I only got one arm. How am I going to cut vegetables up? I need you to help me." So long story short, she said, well, I'll come on the show, but if you promise me one thing. I said, what? She said, I don't want to talk. So, well, you got to talk. So she came on the show, and I think it's been 100% better since she came on, and we've had so much fun. And believe it or not, we've been on since 2012.
Wow. That is amazing, man. And you know, that's just a little example of how great that you all do, and what a great source of knowledge that you all are. And you know, we're sitting here talking tonight. I mean, my taste buds, and I'm just sitting here trying to wipe the drool off my mouth talking about all these good recipes. But you know, to be able to have that knowledge and to pass it on, and to, you know, let people know, you know what, it's not as hard as you think if you got a little bit of guidance. And that's what they get with your show, you know, whether they're watching it on TV, whether they're getting on Facebook, looking up recipe, it's all there at their fingertips.
You know, looking at that little segment on the red drum, you know, there's history in anything you look at. And I think an important thing to tell people about the red drum is, first of all, it's an odd fish. It's kind of got a subterminal mouth. From a fishery standpoint, you know, I'm trying to catch them on top water, which for a drum, you watch them try to hit that top water. It usually takes 2 or 3 massive hits. And these fish are 37, 38 inches long, a lot of them. And it's fun to watch them try to hit that top water bait. But there's such a great sport fish to catch. But, you know, they were considered junk fish at one time. I think there's a stigma attached to the name drum. So what happened down that part of the country, down in Louisiana, there was a PBS chef, and his name was Paul Prudhomme. And he looked like Dom DeLuise, the actor. And he cooked.
Do your impersonation of him. You do him well.
No, I don't
do him well. Yes, you do.
So anyway, he goes down there and he takes and shows people how to make the blackened seasoning, and then he shows them how to do it on a red drum, and it went crazy. It went viral. I guess back in the day, you say that, but he made this thing so popular with his blackened seasoning that they
Technical difficulties.
Right at the best part.
The best part. We lost him. That's okay. He'll come back. I got some more people here while we're waiting on them to come back.
So short story right quick. I had a friend that harvested a cow last year, and I won't name his name, but he took like a whole ham and had it made into jerky. And I kind of got on to him. I was like, dude, you might as well go to Food City and buy a bunch of New York strip and have that made into jerky. And then he ate elk steaks on the barbecue, and he's like, dude, you was right.
Very good. We lost you again, Tim. I apologize for that.
That's all right. But I was saying that it's funny how a good recipe can like almost destroy a fishery. So they had to repopulate and restock and bring that fisheries back and lower the numbers of fish that people were allowed to take, because they were abusing the resource. Because black and red fish, if you've had it, it's just amazing. It's just wonderful.
Great.
Yeah, it is great. It is a great recipe. Now, you know, we've talked about a lot of things. We've talked about canning. We've talked about, you know, processing, not processing as, you know, cutting it up, but taking it and turning it into like summer sausage or bratwurst or bologna. We've talked about our prime cuts. Let's talk a little bit about the ground meat. I mean, why go to the store for any amount of time when you've got ground elk in your freezer and in your refrigerator?
And what else do you need? So there's your chili, there's your spaghetti, there's your
Tacos.
You can even, you know, you can make breakfast sausage out of that. You know, tacos, burritos. I mean, it's anything that you use hamburger. There's only one thing about it. It's better for you than hamburger. You know, there's no hormones on it. You know, there's no growth hormones. You know, there's no antibiotics in it. It is, if there's anything more organic than wild Kentucky elk, I don't know what it is.
That's right. Now, one of the big questions, Tim, we get as the outfitter is when we're taking this thing to process and they're actually getting it processed at the butcher shop, should they add anything to the grind? Do you suggest them to add, another type of fat or anything, or should it be straight elk?
That's up to the individual. If you had a good source, if you had a good butcher and you knew where your fat source were coming from, and you wanted some burger and with a little more fat in it to keep it together and make it a little more juicy. If you knew your source and you knew they had some good tallow or some good beef fat to put in it, I wouldn't have a problem with that. And you could do it for X amount, say a third of it. If you wanted to put those in hamburgers, it just makes them a little juicier, tastier. If you're looking for health reasons, leave that fat out. But if you just want some for that a little more fat in, I don't have any problem with that at all. We've done that sometimes. But for the most part, you can grind up what with that too. It's just phenomenal, and then you're making me hungry.
Here's our good buddy from West Virginia, the guy that got us started all the way in Florida, got TLC Outfitters started in Florida, says, "Hey, Trinity, how are you doing? Watching y'all from a Coyote bait pile. Redfish makes me miss home being from Florida." Man, there's a ton of them down there just off of Crystal River there in the Gulf. Absolutely phenomenal area. I love it. I love it, man. And my cousin says, "Hello, Trent." Hello, TJ. Hope you all are doing very well. Tim, we've talked about a lot of things. What have we not covered as far as hunters that's going to be harvesting, looking for something on the table, looking for something to do? What have we missed and not talked about tonight?
We've lost our audio feed. I can't hear you guys.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Okay. So what I asked was,
He's gone.
Gary, what's your go-to for elk? What do you like to do as far as table fare?
We use a lot of ground and with no beef fat added, and we do a lot of stews, and that's a staple in our diet. And we also, of course, do steaks on the grill and etc. So we do a lot of the I don't remember what it's called. It's like a fancy pressure cooker. There's one sitting over there, and I can't think of what it's called. But it's and we can meat
can cooker.
Yeah, I do use a can cooker. This one, it's electric. I can't remember what it's called. It's like a pressure cooker, but it's like a crock pot at the same time.
Can you hear us now, Tim?
Instapot.
That's it.
Is it that instant?
Yep. We like that really well.
That's a great. Yeah, because you can take that, and I mean, it basically, say you want to do some soup beans or something like that normally take you 3 or 4 hours. You can do that in about an hour and a half. Yeah. I mean, it really cuts your time down, and you can do beef, you can do venison, you can do elk in there, and it'll cook that. If you haven't canned your meat, it will cook it up a lot quicker, and you can saute it in there to get a little brown on it before you close it up and cook it, and it'll give it a good taste.
Delicious.
Saute it with some onions if you're going to do something like that and do a soup or stew. It really saves on your cook time.
Yeah. Tim, we've talked about a lot of things tonight. What is maybe something we've missed that you would have for hunters that hopefully will harvest an elk this year?
Well, first, realize how blessed you are to live in the state of Kentucky. And, realize, and I think most people do, it's such a wonderful experience to hear and see these massive animals, part of God's creation that was intended to be here, and to see them brought back and just to experience it is the experience of a lifetime. I've hunted them out west, but there's nothing more special than climbing up on that mountain and seeing the world wake up and watching the steam come off the hills. And then you hear that sound, and it'll run a chill down your back of your neck every time. If it doesn't, you might need to try something else for a hobby.
I love that, man. That's what I tell everybody. I tell all of our hunters, look, if you're coming down here focused on a number, or you're coming down here and all you're focused on is a harvest, and listen, we want every hunter to harvest. Gary's the same way. Gary works for another, has his own outfitting company. But we all come together. We want every hunter. I don't care who you go with, do it yourself, whatever. We want every hunter. But if that's all you're focused on, you're going to miss the best part of your hunt. And I'm going to tell you something. The guy or the gal that comes down here slows down, enjoys the sights, the sounds, the smell of Eastern Kentucky, the fresh air, the ozone in the morning, all that good stuff. Those are the people who usually slow down and are critical in their thinking and their movements. And those are the people that are the most successful. Those guys that come out and push, you've waited sometimes 10 plus, maybe even 20 years to get this tag. Why make an error because of, bad judgment or rushing it? So you're exactly right. I love to hear you say that. Thank you for that. And, man, I tell you what, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. We're looking so forward to a great elk season this year. And I just want to tell you something, man. I'm going to have to go in here and try to dig out a pack of elk somewhere and see if I can't get it going tonight, even though it is 9 o'clock.
Well, I'll tell you where you can go, Trinity. TimFarmersCountryKitchen.com. Look it up, get you a recipe, and you can thank me later. And thank Nikki. I'm telling you what, that Swiss steak now, a little tenderized, beat it up real good, tenderize it. I don't know if there's anything better.
Use top round,
And
bottom
thank y'all
round.
for having us. We always enjoy talking.
Yeah, man, thank you. But what you're saying is use top round, bottom round, or sirloin. Don't be using that tenderloin to slice thin, right?
Yeah. It's the best.
Yeah. Man, thank you to you and Nikki. Thank you for all the great stuff that y'all crank out. Thank you for your time. And, man, what a great representation of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. You two are it, man. Y'all are 5-star in my book. Thank you for everything.
Well, y'all as well, and thank you so much for having us. And sorry about the little glitch here. It's probably my fault. It's probably something I'm doing on my phone here. But it's good talking to y'all again. Hopefully we'll see you real soon.
Absolutely. Folks, make sure to go over, whether you're checking them out on – and tell them, Tim, where can they get up with you all at?
What's that?
Where can they connect with Tim Farmer's Country Kitchen?
Well, we do lots of – if you get on our Facebook page, we got 250,000 people over there from all over the United States that follow us and all over Canada. And our Facebook page is a great way to find out where we're going and what we're doing. We have live events where we show up and all over the United States, mostly in Kentucky, but a lot of times we get requests to go all over the place now that since that we've become syndicated through NETA. But yeah, check out our Facebook page, Tim Farmer's Country Kitchen. Make sure it's the real one. There's some fake ones out there that only have like 1,400. I don't know why people want to steal everything nowadays and do silly stuff. But look for the one that's got 217, 18,000 followers. You can tell that that's our page. And we post stuff constantly. We tell where we're going to be, what we're going to do. We have food truck events. We cater. We do all kinds of crazy stuff. We run around like chickens with our heads cut off. But I think that's the way we like it.
Yes.
Very good. Gary, I want to thank you tonight too, man. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you're just like the rest of us, man. You are out there trying to help hunters and everything, and we appreciate you co-hosting the show. Now, what a fabulous show to be with Tim and Nikki and Grace Elk Outfitters tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy. I sure do appreciate it.
Absolutely. Folks, we appreciate you for tuning in to On Air and Outdoors with TLC Outfitters and tonight, Grace Elk Outfitters. We hope everybody's had a good time. Listen, it's still time. There's still some dates you got to think about if you're a Kentucky elk hunter. June 15th. If you don't have that tag by June 15th, you're going to be missing out. So make sure you get your tags bought by June 15th. You got drawn for a Kentucky elk hunt, and then have all of your elk zones picked, your elk units picked by June the 30th, and we'll find out where those are at come the first part of July. So we appreciate y'all tuning in. Hope y'all have a great week. Be sure to check in back here next week. Same day, Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, right here on Air and Outdoors with TLC Outfitters. Y'all have a great rest of your week.
Eastern Kentucky, where I was raised, where the wildlife and mountains call my name. I was born to hunt, I was born to guide, a camouflage on a rifle by my side. Just good old country boys chasing dreams in the Appalachian mountains, fields and streams.